Dear audience, dear participants, I think we can start. We have just about an hour and maybe 15 minutes to discuss this very important topic, linking what we already heard during the first morning session on citizen engagement with issues relating to air quality in Europe and also in Slovenia. Because the CODE project dealt not only with European Union level, but also city level and also the national level. And I have a really great pleasure to introduce you to the panel. I will tell a bit more about each of our participants as we go along. But right now, let me tell you about the rules of this panel and the main purpose of this panel. We will have 2 rounds of questions from me as a moderator. One set of questions will be related to the situation we are in right now. Namely, do people have sufficient opportunities to influence policies on air quality in Europe or in Slovenia? So that would be one set of questions, and we will have 2 people expressing themselves on Europe and 2 people expressing themselves on Slovenia. And the second round of questions would be on possible solutions and what can be done to give citizens even more opportunities to influence policies on environmental issues, both in Slovenia and Europe. And then you as the audience will have also the possibility to ask your own questions. So that being said, I think we can start, and we will start with Jerneja Jerše, who is the head of the European Commission's representation in Slovenia. And I know, and I hope that everyone here knows that last year was the year of experimentation in the European Union on citizen engagement. There was this large event called Conference on the Future of Europe. And I hope that you will briefly tell us about it, and also maybe you know some other instruments that would allow people who would wish to influence European policies about environment to do so. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. So it's this microphone, not the other one. Okay.
I'm keeping this one.
Sure. So first of all, thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to this interesting panel. I have to admit at the beginning, because the conference, it's about crowdfunding and so on, I'm definitely not.
Crowdsourcing.
Sorry, crowdsourcing. Freudian slip. Crowdsourcing, this is what I meant, but I said even on that one, I'm definitely not a real expert. But when we are looking more into citizens' participation, that one a little bit more, because the European Commission is trying to be big on this. And I just caught the end of the previous presentation. Well, it looks that the Commission is doing everything just right. Just everything that the citizens are expecting, we are doing it. So I can have a very, very nice start, but I know that the debate will be a little bit different. But if I try to become a little bit more serious on this one, even though we see that still nowadays in Europe there are quite some citizens that feel that they are not being heard, that they are maybe complaining about pretty much everything, European level, national level, and so on, and that they realize that there are negative impacts also on the environment, and the Commission maybe is not doing enough. Here also there is a little bit of a problem that not every citizen, every participant has all the relevant and necessary information. So this is one of the issues that we have to educate them, but also you cannot force people to do things. So this is a bottom-up approach, and it's important that everyone is heard, everyone has the possibility to express themselves, different groups, and also that because once citizens have a say that can participate, they're definitely more likely to accept the consequences. And as you said, yes, indeed, we had a little bit of an experiment in Europe last year. But let me start with the thing which is not the most recent experiment, but still an experiment which came with the Lisbon Treaty. So it's called ECI, European, I think it's Citizens. You know, I love the acronym, so sometimes I have to check the Citizens Initiative. So, which says what? if you have 1 million of citizens, not, of course, from one member state, you have to have it from 7 member states, and there is a quorum of how many they have to be engaged to propose something to the Commission, it can be done. Because when you're teaching the kids what are the typical European Union institutions, you always say the Commission is the only institution that has the right of initiative. What does it mean? Well, the Commission can come up with the idea, okay, we need to propose this and this. Then the Council and the Parliament, they can suggest to the Commission. But nowadays with this ECI, European Citizens Initiative, also a large group of citizens can get together and say, Commission, do something. And this was done, I think the one of those in 2012 had 1.8 million signatures. It was on the right of water. They succeeded. The Commission actually changed the legislative proposal, and there were some that ended in the non-legislative proposals. But so there is a possibility for citizens to do something. And now on the experiment, last year, during actually the Slovenian presidency, there was a lot of action on the conference on the future of Europe, because the president, when she started with her term, she said, we will put together the conference on the future of Europe, meaning what? Everyone can have a say, what are the issues that they want to engage with. And people were able to put their ideas online in their own member states. That was the first stage. The second stage was that there was a panel of, I think, more than 200 citizens that they debated on these things. So this went actually even further. And what is the most impressive thing, I see, when you look at the, I was just now at the one other meeting, when you look at the Commission work program, the concrete initiatives, when you see what is blue, and I'm telling you, 90% are blue. So what Commission is going to do next year comes out of concrete suggestions out of the conference on the future of Europe. So I think that this is becoming not only an experiment, and the last thing is, it is here to stay. President von der Leyen said, this is going to remain a panel where citizens have their say when they're heard, that things can change with regarding to the environment, but also to other very important areas.
Thank you so much. And let's now check whether everything is really as good as it sounds. Jože, Roth, you were already introduced to Jože. We already heard your presentation. First of all, would you agree that on substantive issues, European Commission is really doing what the citizens are saying that it should do, both in CODE project and in Europe Conference on the Future of Europe? And secondly, you also mentioned that your organization has more than 40 years of experience working on environmental issue advocacy. And I know you are new in this organization, but nevertheless, would you say that your organization, maybe other environmental organizations in Europe, have sufficient possibilities to influence European policies?
Yeah. Thank you. Well, in these years, of course, many things have improved, and they're improving further on. So the options or possibilities for participation are now much better, higher than were previously, especially also with this commission, with its better regulation strategy and use of these tools like European Civil Initiative or Have Your Say or other public consultation issues and engagement. It has improved. However, there is always a gap between, of course, the lawmaker or policy maker, decision maker, and what people actually want or need. So there's always room for improvement. So in that case, we are from our perspective, as I said, a lot of things improved, but on the other hand, we also participated in the Conference for Future of Europe, and the process was, in our opinion, very, I mean, a bit too random or stochastic, not so much direct, targeted. And as you said, I mean, I could find for every idea I can find a policy. Yeah. So does it mean that European Commission is doing everything right? No, not at all. But of course, they know that if they wouldn't address the problem, they would be out on the street. I mean, people would take them down. So every ruler or decision maker, lawmaker knows that he needs to listen to the people because this is where his true power is coming from. So technicalias have improved, and of course the conference of the future of Europe, following a good example of citizens' assemblies done in France after the Gilets Jaunes movement, or in Ireland for their abortion campaign. So these are all the social learning activities where the people, where the crowds, where the masses can come together and deliberate on a certain issue and deliver a clear message to the decision maker, lawmaker, on how to proceed. Sometimes the solutions are easily found and accepted on the, let's say, declarative level, but when it comes to implementation, and because there is only so much money, it means it will not be enough for something else, or we need to cancel some other policies, then of course this is where the policy arena and political fight comes in. And so yeah, these priorities, I mean, the identification of the issues on declarative level, sure, it's good, but the real gap is then in prioritizing or implementing them. You can also implement it in a way that serves only some people or centers or interests of power, or you can implement it in a different way. So here is our main row, and the difference we see is on how to implement, and on the tools themselves. Often I mean, the politicians, of course, welcome, like Petko mentioned, they welcome any opportunity for washing exercise, you know, saying, exactly, this is what I propose. It's exactly my policy. I mean, you could see it with even with, of course, the more populist the politician, the better. With Trump, or even in Europe, we were not lacking a populist politician. So, this was our well, from not just our, but from NGO sector, especially EU or Brussels-based NGOs, the Big Ten, which are really skilled in advocacy. For us, this process was a bit too stochastic and not really bringing much to the table on policy level, or a solution level, or prioritization level, or concrete steps of how to do it. But it was more, well, it's a nice exercise and a good start. We need to start somewhere, and we hope that in future years it becomes a bit more realistic and yeah, implement.
Thank you so much. An additional question to you. Basically, as you said, you represent a large organization. It's not like regular people who are engaged in experiment, but rather an organization with quite an experience in advocacy. What would you say? What are the most impactful methods that your organization would use in order to try to change something in European Union for better? Obviously, as you said, it probably would not be through conference on the future of Europe. It would be some other methods, but what would those methods be?
Yeah, we are using different approaches. We represent a very heterogeneous movement. So it started with more environmental issues, but now it's also on justice. So it's environmental justice, social movement, and it's very heterogeneous. We have members on the national level, which are basically advocating completely opposite goals. So we're trying to find kind of, also for ourselves, we try to prioritize and bring this diversity together and make it efficient. And you need, the solution is, the short answer is, you need all complementary approaches. So you need the direct action, people on the street protesting, young people, old people, whatever. But young with Greta were really, I mean, they inspired this commission, and von der Leyen's and Timmermans' Green Deal and everything. So it would not be possible without it. So you need this, but of course then you need also the other type of NGOs, the people who sit at the table and start crafting a solution and say, okay, now we have this regulation, it's working like that, we have to change. So you need from a grassroots to expert level, and somehow we're trying to make the future of society as within our organization. We will try to make a social compromise first ourselves to find, I mean, for example, is degrowth the way forward, or do we need the growth economy? Or this is a very basic systemic question, and then also, yeah, reflects on other issues on how you approach. So I think there's no one answer on what is best, but we are successful when all the components of the movement align, and then no one knows why this tipping point happens, and then the change happens immediately, and it's possible with the wider public and with the decision makers.
Okay, thank you so much. So we already heard about at least 4 different methods, starting from like those big innovative experiments. Oh, sorry, it's okay. I will get it a bit later. Oh, thanks. Okay, like Conference on the Future of Europe, we heard about those giant petitions with millions of signatures collected. We heard about direct action, like people's on the street and talking on social media and different formats about the things that worry them. And also NGOs engaged in very technical work, sitting at the same table where there are politicians and civil servants trying to draft new legislation. So basically these kinds of methods are topical at the European Union level at the moment. I would be interested in to what extent the same methods would be also topical for Slovenia as a country. On environmental issues, I would address first to Špela Žohar, who is representative of Ministry of Environment and Spatial Planning of Slovenia. How would you say for an NGO active in Slovenia on environmental issues, what kind of tools, methods, procedures they would have available to have some influence on what decisions on environmental issues are taken in Slovenia? I use this one? Yes. Is it on? It's on. It's on. Try. Okay. Do we? Is it? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It says on. Yeah. I think. Okay. So thank you so much for having me here today among these wonderful guests. So yes, of course, NGOs can contribute to policy, and if I start really boring, the Aarhus Convention is the fundamental framework for access to information, for public participation in decision making, and to access to justice. So for NGOs, I think really important is first and second pillar, so access to information, because for example, ARSO, Slovenian Environment Agency, is providing the environmental data. It's public and it's on their website. It's recent as it could be, up to date, about pollutants in the ambient air quality. So, and the second pillar, which is really important, is public participation, because we as a ministry, as national authority, we need to ensure transparent and fair public participation in the preparation of national policies. We need to include public and NGOs, of course, as soon as possible. We need to give access to all our documents that we are preparing, and we usually give them time from 30 to 60 days to give comments and views on those documents. And nevertheless, we need to consider and address all those comments and give response
if we are accepting those comments, if we are semi-accepting or not accepting, and we need to explain why, for example, we are not accepting. So these documents are always updated on the web portal Democracy. So yeah, I think there's one big opportunity, and also we are available for meetings, and NGOs can always contact us or write us or call us and express their views and ideas with us. Yes.
Okay, thank you. It's several questions, just to for me to understand if I understood you correctly.
Yes.
So basically, in Slovenia, both regarding environmental issues, but other issues, the public is given 30 to 60 days to comment on proposals by the government.
Yeah, this is more or less the usual standard, to give 30 to 60 days.
That's a lot.
That's a lot, but
country, it's a lot.
It depends how difficult or how many changes are in the documents. So yeah, it depends.
And you have to address to every comment received there.
Yes.
Okay, now the main question.
That's quite a lot of work to do. Yeah.
How many comments usually on environmental issues you would receive, and how much time would be spent on preparing answers?
Oh, it depends. It really depends. It could be none,
Okay.
and it could be hundreds.
And if these are hundreds, then basically you would then write for each of those. We agree.
You kind of group them.
Okay.
Which one are the similar ones, and then you answer to them, to all of them.
And what is your general evaluation relating both to air quality but other environmental topics as well? Are people in Slovenia interested in using this opportunity or not so much?
I think not so much. Not as much as it would be useful, I guess, because usually they're the same persons that are interested in this, but not general public. I don't think so. I think NGOs are really active, and that's good.
Okay, I see you looking at probably. I don't know if Institute for Health and Environment is an NGO. It is an NGO, so Tomaž, Gorenc. So I will give the floor to you right now to address what you've just heard. That basically, it seems to me, but I'm an outsider, I'm not really sure if I understand it correctly, but in Slovenia, a regular person would have quite a good opportunity to influence decisions, and maybe if not influence, at least get some response on whether his or her idea is a good one or not so good one. But does it really work like that in practice?
I would say, first of all, good everyone. I'm coming from the Institute for Health and Environment, and yes, we are NGO, but we are NGO in public interest. So this is a special status that is recognized by the Ministry for Environment and Special Planning, but also for the Ministry for Health as well. So this is a status in a way that there is a recognition that we are working in a public interest. So we have a certain standard of professional as well. We are not biased in this case, and we need to report as well what we are doing, so what is our plan, so to be consistent. And to be consistent, I think this is really important. Now, I will try to link to Špela here, and yes, Aarhus Convention is a framework, is a fundament, indeed. But it's also important how it's implemented in practice. And I wouldn't say that everything is black and white, so everything is working perfectly, or the other way around. Everything is wrong, or it's not working properly, right? So I would say it depends from case to case, and also from the policy to policy. For example, if we have policy on climate change, I bet that there is a lot of comments. But if we will say about, I don't know, more niche or more specific topic, well, there is not so much. It depends also on the policy. But if I go back to my general response, I would say that in Slovenia, I think when we are talking about participatory processes and democratical processes, I think there is a relatively still low awareness. I think majority of people, I mean general citizens, still thinks that voting is the only way how to proceed or engage, right? Referendums and elections. But however, there are more ways how to do it, right? And I think Špela mentioned the environmental agency, for example. I think the platform with those environmental indicators is a good example of the, I would say, level one. This is information. So the citizens needs to be aware of the situation. Now, I think there is a room for improvement. It's not enough that that is on the website, but also in what forum is on the website, because we cannot expect from general society to be an expert. This happened with the young people. Greta Thunberg and young people acting for climate, they were starting, I mean, journalists starting asking them questions that are expert questions. And usually, young people say, okay, come on, I'm not an expert, but you cannot expect from me to answer such complex questions. I'm a young person, but I'm pointing out what your job should be. You know? So, it's a tricky. So I think the general society cannot be an expert on anything, but still need to be aware and should be digested in such forum so they can be aware. And I think the public media in this case is really important channel. Nowadays, also social media is really important channel as well. So we need to take advantages and disadvantages of that. So if I continue, we have, I see level 2. This is the consultation. And Špela mentioned this, and I think there is a process with NGOs, that there is a collaboration, and it's a two-way process. E-democracy as a platform is such example. I think there are a lot of sub-pages when you can, as an individual or as an NGO, you can give an opinion, recommendation, comment, also an initiative if you want, right? But I think this is perfect if it's done meaningfully. Otherwise, it's just a tokenism. Then we have a layer 3 and 4, and this is the consultation and empowerment. And I will give a good example with the Ministry of Environment and Health, in my opinion. With a new minister, there was established, in my humble opinion, good fundament. This is the working group at the Ministry for Environment and Special Planning for NGOs. So representatives from the NGO sector were elected by the peers to be in that working group, collaborating with the minister and policymakers. Now, next week we have a second meeting, so we are in the beginning of the process, but I see this as a good step in the right direction, right? I can comment that next year what will happen, but still, I think that this is a good way of the collaboration. It's difficult, I know, because I can imagine the lack of capacities and time and everything, right? But consistency, I think, is important, right? Yeah, I could elaborate more, but maybe...
Is the agenda in those meetings set by the minister or by NGOs?
It's a two-way process for now.
For example, if we want to discuss air quality issues in Slovenia, and I'm not sure whether it's a topic in Slovenia or not, would an NGO be able to address this question with the minister in those meetings?
My expectations are definitely. By the way, our organization gave, and also our partners gave also comments in other policies, because, you know, air pollution or air quality is, I would say, a horizontal topic, because it's also connected to health, of course, right? And yes, since the European Commission, in the beginning of the November, I think, they gave an opinion on new air quality directive. I mean, this is an important process that will come to Slovenia eventually. I hope as soon as possible, but as you may know or not, air quality in Slovenia is a struggle, definitely, because of geography, but also from the energy and mobility habits, policies, or trends that we have. So, yes, definitely I'm looking forward to discuss these topics with the Minister of environment special planning, but not only with him, because health is important, a stakeholder, the Ministry of Health or infrastructure, also economy.
Okay, so we are now on the second round of questions, and I will continue with Slovenia before moving back to European Union level. Nene, it sounded so great what both of you described about the citizen engagement possibilities in Slovenia, but nevertheless, I suspect that it's always not so rosy as it appears. And whenever there is some sort of a problem, there is also a need or possibility of innovation, of making things better. Where would you feel that in Slovenia there would be a strong need for innovation regarding citizen engagement on air quality issues or any other kind of issues? Would those be, I don't know, a category of people who are actively not involved or apathetic, or would there be some other need where you would feel that innovation is necessary, some sort of a change is needed because the result would be better if this group of people would have been involved, or the decision makers would, get some more meaningful impact from citizens, or maybe decision makers would more actively seek better input from citizens. So where would you feel that the ground for improvement still lies in Slovenia?
So me?
Yes.
Okay. I believe that technical or social innovations or different democratic approaches are beneficial, I think. So shortly, yes, right? It would be an answer. But longer answer would be yes, but, right? Such innovations, such tools or good practices will not solve the problem, in my opinion, by default, right? If we will not address the mindset, maybe, from the previous intervention that I gave, right? So it can help, and I can give a concrete example. 2 years ago, we started a small campaign on air quality, specifically on NO2 emissions that are really connected to traffic in Ljubljana. Now, it was the middle of the epidemic, and also epidemic measures were taken into action, right? With all lockdowns and a lot of different policies were implemented at that time. However, we started a collective mapping. So we invited visitors and citizens of Ljubljana to contribute. Where do you think the air quality is bad in Ljubljana and why? This why was really important. And it was also an online campaign, so everybody could participate. And actually, the interest was huge. I was surprised that the why section was really good as well, because we got insights. What citizens think, what they know about air quality, how they connect air quality with mobility. Because we also got answers like, yeah, my neighbor is burning something, usually it's like that. So we got really diverse responses, right? So we selected them, we digested them, and then we invited also volunteers. We trained them, and we measured air quality with them, right? So it was not point just the information, also education, and also this participation. Let's do it together. Of course, we cannot do it with all the stakeholders there, but still with a group that we can properly work with it. And then when we got the results, obviously results were bad, but unfortunately, then we prepared the interactive map with the report. We commented with the experts as well. So we involved different stakeholders, and then we presented together publicly, transparently, right? So interest was huge, I would say, from the media, citizens as well, also policymakers, but we need to take into account that these are not on the national level just, but also on the municipality level. And I can see that I have mixed feelings, because a collaboration afterwards with some of the experts on policymakers was great. But I got the feeling with some of them, also this weird feeling, you're not doing right? These are not official measurements. the official measurements should be like this and this and that, but official measurements are measured on the 4 meters high. Now, kids are not that tall, you know? So we were actually reflecting on the concrete situation. We were not double checking the official measurements, that's useless, right? That we wanted to see what is the real situation, because this is important, because WHO launched the new standards that are, you know what, really, really low. And sooner or later, from the EU level, we will deal with it on the national level as well. And I'm looking forward, meaningfully, for this process in Slovenia, because this is important, because vulnerable groups are at stake. And also our comments, for example, the measures that might be useful to be implemented. Not all of them cannot be, but some of them are really, really, really useful in my opinion, and are not just black and white, are not radical, but yes, over communication, participation, discussions are needed to do that, right?
Yeah, I think it was a really inspiring story about how you can engage so many people to give feedback on what the air quality is around them, and also then work with decision makers to try to at least make them more aware, maybe even affect change.
Just a quick, I just want, that feels like a promotion or something, but the thing is that this is just an example when we planned the steps of the participation. I know that sometimes cannot be done like that, right? And we have bad and good practices. That's the point. And also innovations, as I mentioned at the beginning, won't solve by default.
That's true.
That's the thing.
Okay, thank you so much. But let's now go to Špela. And Špela, your perspective is from civil service point of view. So you already described the platform, e-democracy platform that you have, and where you get some feedback from citizens on concrete policies which your ministry is developing. But here we talked about some other way of citizens' engagement, where basically people come up with some idea on their own initiative. How do you feel? To what extent these kind of initiatives that we just heard can be more encouraged in Slovenia, or are they encouraged at the moment? Do you feel that from the point of view of civil servants and politicians, these kinds of initiatives are appreciated, or rather considered to be all those strange things that people are doing? They're not very strictly standard-based research, so why should we care? So is these kinds of initiatives appreciated in Slovenia, and can there be more of them in the future?
I think they're appreciated because, you know, usually at the ministries, only one person is dealing with one topic. So we are usually one-man band. You don't have team to discuss with and find solutions and new creative ideas. So it's really welcoming if someone, I don't know, a team, some NGO is thinking about what else can we do. So, yeah, but we need to communicate those things. So I think we need, I don't know, some way, some platform, or I don't know what. So those ideas would go back and forward. And of course, it's nice to hear all these ideas from one point of view, but sometimes those ideas are not so realistic. So I think with communication we can find middle ground, and yeah, I think we should communicate more.
Okay, but what I heard from Slovenia really sounded inspiring, both this format where your NGOs can meet with minister, and also what this initiative was about equality in Ljubljana, and also the consultation platform. It sounds for me a bit too good to be true, but maybe I'm too skeptical. But if you both confirm that it's really like that, then I just have to believe that it's like that. It's really welcoming. Slovenia is really welcoming citizens' input on environmental issues.
Yeah, you know, because if you want to improve air quality, you should not only, how can I say, it's important to tackle the problem bottom up and top down at the same time. So that's why we need to meet in the middle, because measures are implemented in the local level, not on the national level. They are as well, but the biggest changes are on the local level, at communities, at local communities. So yeah, it's important that they feel included, heard, that they are motivated to make some changes in, I don't know, with how we commute and how we heat our buildings and ventilate our buildings and so on. You know, it's me and you to start with. So yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. And now let's try to return to our common European Union level. And I would ask Jože also where the most necessity, the biggest necessity for innovation lies. I would maybe try to set the space in this manner. Basically, would you feel that there would be a greater need to innovate in order to reach and engage those people who are currently totally not interested in European Union policies? That would be one point of view. Another point of view is, would you feel that there is more need for innovation in order to make decision makers, not just in European Commission, but European Parliament, maybe national governments, to listen better to citizen input that's already there, but maybe have not really have enough acceptance?
I hope I remember the questions.
Sorry, basically, where do you need the European Union should improve?
No, but the first one was about.
Is it about the necessity to engage more citizens, more citizens? That there's not enough citizens.
Well, you know, innovation is a catchy word, but we're innovating as a society from since the human civilization exists. So okay, now we can use new tools. It always comes back, you know, to the readiness of the politicians or those in power to actually share this power and how to execute it. So if they are forced by some movement, by some very strong issues, then for sure they do it, but very scarcely, you know. So it's I mean, for example, the Commission often has a right to do delegated acts or implementing acts, and then the Council and the Parliament play a certain role there. But for example, we are NGOs. We are also often the EU paid, so to do our kind of perspective, to bring some wider perspective and data. And often we contribute, of course, on all these consultations and etc. And Commission also tries to respond to, like Slovenian government, the same practices and better regulation on the EU level. But is it effective? Is it sufficient? Is it really? I mean, it would be case by case, and there is no straight answer. There is no static answer. You know, it's a very dynamic. The social dynamics is very active, and it goes back to the actual people who are in power. If they are, for example, we had a previous commission under Jean-Claude Juncker, was a completely different organizational culture, completely different values. Everything was about economic growth, jobs, saving Europe economically, because it was an external situation like that. And then we had young people going to streets, and we had a new commission, and Green Deal was there. Now we had this energy crisis, war in Ukraine. I'm not sure if the Green Deal will survive. This is now a big question. So also not just on the side of the politicians, but also on the public opinion. And there are different interests. So one is policy, and the other thing is politicians. Mm-hmm. And the politicians have different values, are far from progressive. Well, I wouldn't go very far, but working with them is really a challenge. So it's one thing when the cameras are on, and even there the standards of the communication behavior have worsened dramatically in the past 10 years, not just in US but also in Europe with the populist discussions, etc. So it's really. I mean, it can be progressive, it can be nice, it can be inclusive, it can be all these positive values, but it really depends on the personality of the politician. You remove that one, another one comes and is the same rules, but completely different outcome. It's different music is playing, you know, the orchestra is there, but the notes are changed. So.
Okay, do I understand you correctly? Because I would like to narrow this focus a bit. Are you saying that basically citizens have been clear enough about what they need on environmental issues on the European Union level, and there have been enough engagement? The problem, if there is a problem, lies sooner on how their ideas are being received by politicians.
Yeah, there is. If you look to the Eurostat polls they do every month, the environment is always like health, etc., very high on the scale. So there is no. But the problem is the gap is this cognitive gap or behavioral comes later on how to implement it, how to prioritize. This is where the politics, the policy come in and how to reach this goal. And are we aware enough of the environmental crisis? Of course, the climate change is here. I mean, everyone now sees it's not change, it's crisis. It changed definitely for the next couple of hundreds of years. And now with the for example, with the Ukrainian war, fossil fuels are not available anymore for us in the way they were before. So, of course, these are people are very much aware of these issues, and what the politics or politicians do is propose how to solve them. Okay. And this is where this public arena or forum comes in. How do we engage or debate these with the larger people? I mean, wider public, and all the methods from media, social media, come into play here.
Okay, so thank you, Jerneja. So it seems to me, maybe again, I'm not fully right in this, is that basically on the European Union level, the main issue is to what extent people feel that their voice is being listened to, that they get not just the possibility to speak, but also to influence something at the European Union level. And maybe you can elaborate on this. For example, let's take this experiment that both of us already mentioned, like Conference on the Future of Europe. Will there be some follow-up from European Commission? In general, to what extent European Commission, your organization, works to assure people that it's not that they have only the platform to speak, but also that their voice matters?
Yeah, let me first, so thanks for the question. First, I have to respond to completely right what Jože said about this is indeed a political commission. So this is, it's, even if it sounds a little bit, oh, what is this? It is a fact. So even the previous one, but this one even more. We even notice it. So we, the civil servants, I won't say in Brussels, you know, at the commission, we see it is like this. But what does it mean for citizens' participation? You know, politicians are those that have to be accountable to someone. If we had a technocratic government, well then, they might not be so concerned about what people think. This one is very much concerned about what people think. Now, there are, of course, different interest groups influencing different sides, but when this commission came and they listened to people like Greta, they listened to those that the environment matters, I think this is important. And is that, well, crisis coming up, will the European Green Deal survive? If you ask, the official position of the Commission is European Green Deal is the answer because, you know, the fossil fuels cannot survive anymore, so we have to go to renewables. I'm trying, you know, to be a little bit, to spice up the debate. But if we, so I opened this, I'm sure you're going to react to this one. But if I just mentioned a little bit on the conference. Conference on the Future of Europe was indeed an experiment. And first, also, when you were saying that these were mostly the usual suspects that were heard. Yes, maybe in Brussels, all these organizations, but this is why the Commission wanted to make sure that those groups that don't always open up their mouth, that they do it. 1/3 of everyone who participated was young people. It is normally, you know, young people nowadays don't really care that much about politics and everything, but the Commission in a way tried to motivate them or force them, come on, have your say. So I think that the future is a little bit rosier in these participation things. And we see what came up. The conference finished so on 9th of May, so Europe Day this year. And we came up with 49 wide-ranging proposals and individual measures. And they come in the area of pollution, sustainable production of food, circular economy. This is actually what matters to all of us. And then some of them, the Commission has already put forward a proposal on zero pollution action plan, a revision of industrial emissions directive, and so on. Then it called on the co-legislator to act on polluter pays principle, but there are also ideas. What comes next is the revision of ambient air quality legislation, revision of directive on ship source pollution, and revised list of surface and groundwater pollutants. And in September, President Ursula von der Leyen had her State of the Union address, and there she said, these panels, maybe they were an experiment, but they have to stay here so that people will be those that will be saying things. So this is, even if the platform is not more open at this stage, it is always possible to say, and I think people are heard. Now, I showed you, you know, the work program, it says 90% of all the initiatives for next year are colored in blue, which means there are follow-up of the conference. For me, this is very important. And also, and if this doesn't work, what stays is the so-called ECI, so European Citizens Initiative. So you maybe think it is difficult to put together 1 million people, but when it is a cause that matters to everyone, it is possible. And what we are also planning to do from next year onwards, we're going to, we designed a central online collection system, which says that it is going to be easier to put this online, to collect the signatures. You know, these tools are difficult in terms of data protection, all this, so Commission will help here so the citizens can get together. But, so citizens can work together. The Commission will not promise a legislative solution to everything, but will review. And for some of the initiatives, it says, well, I think that the legislation is strong enough, but I think we live in difficult times with all the issues that we have, with the climate change, with the war, with the energy prices. But the individual is much more hurt now than ever before. I would like to say this, and also, I know it's not my time for questions, but I want to drop a small, just tricky question. We said that in Slovenia, everyone can, you know, ask questions, express themselves. Maybe you have heard about Next Generation EU that Commission came up with. This is 700 billion money to make in the entire European Union better again. We have recovery and resilience plans. In the Slovenian one, there is something which says about renewables, more hydropower, and then there is, not with these words, but we know there is a hydropower plant called Mokrice there. So, what I have heard, yes, citizens will have a say, they will have a lot of say, and it is very likely this power plant, it's never going to see the light of day. So I think from the Slovenian perspective, I think it's good to listen to citizens, but sometimes, especially environmental in themes, they might, I'm not, by the way, saying whether it's good or bad, Mokrice, please, I don't know enough about it, but it might be even more, a bigger say to be put to all the in NGOs and so on. So it's a provocative question which I am not taking sides in it.
Okay, thank you so much. So the comment, and then we will still have some 10-15 minutes for questions.
Yeah, about Mokrice, I don't want to say yes or no, that let's have a voting or something. No. But the thing is, here we go again, the process, right? And I don't want to show that maybe me and Špela, we were talking about everything is good and we have platforms and so on. No, I said many times, no radicals on that and that side, okay? There are cases that it's working and there are cases that it's not working, okay, to be honest. But what I think, I will start with Green Deal first. Okay, Green Deal is alive, fair enough. But what is the real policies counts? For example, the full alignment of their equality is not there. So full alignment follows Green Deal, right? And here we go again. In Slovenia, I have a lot of examples. For example, we have let's widen the roads, the highways toward the city. That's the step in the wrong direction from climate perspective, from air quality perspective, and so on. Now, in some eyes, I'm saying this, I'll be a radical person, okay? And in Mokrice, I would say, I don't know the case really good, but as I know, there is more a controversial thing going there. But there is not just, or energy sector, we can talk about nuclear as well. For example, I'm not saying now, yes, I'm pro, I'm against. I won't say now, but the thing is, again, what is the process behind it? If you have the doors closed, yeah, sure, you will get objections, you will have unconstructive comments, right? We are talking about nuclear and a referendum. It's on and on and on. Referendum, yeah, it should be a referendum. But some process is already started.
Yeah.
So, is that meaningfully? No, right? So I'm going back to the process, you know. So you can have platforms, shiny gamification platforms, whatever you want. But if you are taking it seriously, and if you are consistent, that's the thing.
Okay, I think it's a very important remark. Okay, do we have questions in the audience to our panel? Okay, okay, we do have.
Thank you very much. I will just try to follow up your substyle thing. How to say, exploration. Is there really a rose of garden between the environmental NGOs and the Ministry of the Environment and Spatial Planning? You are really trying to dig in, but I don't think you are satisfied with the answer. Maybe I can share outsider perspective on it. Of course, I'm not an NGO professional from the environmental policy, public policy. I'm the NGO from the digital transformation policy, but of course, the NGOs working in the NGO field are also looking always what other colleagues are working in the public policy making, and answer whether there is a rose garden between them depends from which government is on the power. So at the moment we have liberal, left-wing, central government which is very aligned with the agenda of the NGOs. So of course there are not so much clashes. But looking just half a year back, the right-wing government in Slovenia, we saw clear attempts how to limit the activities of the NGOs, looking at the regulation who can get this public interest status in the environmental policy. Also limiting the funding for the environmental NGOs. And there was a big issue with the water referendum when the opposition and the environmental NGOs aligned against the government in order to overthrow the government regulation. So it depends. It's a lot of clashes. It depends who is on the government, how this government actually is communicating with the environmental sector. And also one thing which is also, I would say, historically important is that we, NGOs and the digital policy area, are a little bit jealous of the colleagues from the environmental policy because they have Aarhus Convention. We don't have something like that in the digital transformation public policy. We also don't have systematic funding over decade of the policy networks of the NGOs on the level environment. You have two strong policy networks. One is the Plan B, which is very influential. I'm the coordinator of the policy network for the Inclusive Digital Information Society, and we are struggling every year to get financing, and we are now working voluntarily for the last 2 years on the same level of policy advocacy as the colleague from the environment. So it really depends on the situation and the differences, how this civil dialogue is developed from the policy field to the other policy field. And for us, the digital society, the environmental NGOs were always kind of, I would say, highlight of the professionalism and the ability to influence the public policy, and with also with a meaningful impact. So keep up rocking.
Okay, thank you for these remarks. They are really helpful to provide context to what we just heard. My last question would be to Jerneja. Just following up on what Simon just said, that basically it's sometimes lucky circumstances like political alignment, but sometimes it's a long work in providing good grounds for cooperation between civic society and some institution, in this case different governments, and also some very seemingly technical things like funding provided for organizations that can organize different groups of society in order to advocate for their interest and for public benefit. That's crucial to success in the civic dialogue. To what extent do you feel that European Commission currently prioritizes not only this new experiment, but you said that we are going to have those citizen panels with randomly selected citizens as a permanent feature of the European Union, but also different organizations who try to promote public benefit in environmental issues and other issues for the future. To what extent is it important for the European Commission?
The European Green Deal remains as the priority. So in September we had, as already mentioned, State of the Union, and the President said European Union is staying the course, which means doesn't matter if there is war, doesn't matter if there is energy crisis, we want to really reach the goal to become the first climate neutral continent by 2050. This is it. And I think a lot of the resources go in this. And what we came up with, even before the war, with Fit for 55, it is a lot of things. And because these green environmental issues are so important, as I said, we need to have some kind of consensus. We need to have public behind. So now don't ask me on real details what is the level of funding of the NGOs, because I'm not able to give you the exact number, but I do believe that there are possibilities. So there are possibilities for people to organize themselves. So in these important areas like it is the green, it is the digital, it is the values. So in this area, I think it is extremely important that we have NGOs and civil society on board, but not only to say, as someone said, we have to have a dialogue. Even European Commission, it's only people as you and me. It's not people who take the textbooks from the shelf and know everything. So you need to talk to these people and try to come up with something better. With, for example, I mentioned Next Generation EU and Recovery and Resilience plans, where everyone in Slovenia said not enough debate. Well, yeah, okay, it was, the Commission said there has to be debate. So we're gently trying to say this, and it's not the end. We're continuing the reforms that needs to happen. It was ironic. 1 month ago, there were some colleagues in Slovenia from Brussels. We had a meeting with some stakeholders, and the European Commission put Slovenian NGOs behind the table and started to debate this. We said, come on, you know, we need this, and I can't answer on the exact funding, but for me it becomes a crucial issue, because the technocrats cannot just run this place and find a solution. But it is the political commission, the politicians from member states, and also the parliamentarians, which are doing something good for Europe, but also civil society here. And we are all citizens, we are users of the clean air or not so clean air that we breathe. I won't say that the future is rosy, but definitely we are aware of the importance that we do put prominence to this segment of society.
Okay, thank you so much. On this inspiring note, let me close this session, and thank you very much, our wonderful, I think really wonderful panel that we had. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And,